Welcome inside the Red Mile Rundown, episode 49. The Flames finally get a win. Plenty of other things to talk about as well on the podcast. We'll get into it all this week on the show. Welcome inside. I am your host, Johnny Zup, and alongside me, as always, from FlamesNation.ca, Robert Munich. How we doing, Robert?
It happened. It finally happened. They won a game. They scored more than 4 goals. Unbelievable, hey? Holy crap. It took long enough. Only took the 10th game of the season, but no, they're finally there. And actually, it was a pretty good week of Flames hockey. So, yeah, things are pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, it was good. It was nice to see a win. It was nice to see the team play hard and things go in. Nice to see a lot of guys produce that we need to see produce. We'll get into all of that. I was trying to think about how to intro the show today, and I'm like, if they lose this one too, it's just going to be just a slog of a show. And then they get a win, and I'm like, well, how much emphasis do I put on the win, because we still had those losses all week long as well. But it gave us a lot to talk about around the Calgary Flames, Robert. And so there's no better place to start than let's review what we've seen over the last few games here, because the Flames they had a streak going, a streak that nobody really likes to see. They made it 8 losses in a row, but then they kind of dominated the Rangers on Sunday night to get a win. What'd you make of the week of action from the Flames and things that caught your eye here, Robert?
You know what? I actually thought they played pretty good. Like if you go all the way back to Sunday's game against go back to Monday's game against the Winnipeg Jets last week, I actually thought they played really well throughout the entire week. What really ended up costing them was bad special teams, and they could not put the puck in the net. But you know, if you take a look at the numbers, you know, they had a fantastic week at 5-on-5 specifically. Like, you know, the team save percentage, Dustin Wolf led the NHL in save percentage at 5-on-5 this week. Like, he was incredible. He is completely back. You know, all that talk of, you know, like, should we be worried about Wolf and all that kind of stuff is, you know, in the garbage, as you know, it should be there. That type of conversation with Dustin Wolf should remain in the garbage.
Yeah. Every
goalie's going to go through their ups and downs. So to question Dustin Wolf after like 3 or 4 games of just like mediocre play, I think was silly. But anyway, he led the NHL in save percentage this week at 5-on-5. And then you take a look at shot attempts. They were 3rd in the NHL, expected goals 4, 6, scoring chances 6, and high danger chances. They were 9th. So they were in the top 10 of nearly every sort of shot metric at 5-on-5 last week. And I think it makes sense. Like the game at home against Winnipeg, like I was at that one. You know, they played well, they played hard, they took shots from all over the place. They just weren't dangerous enough. Montreal, sort of a similar thing. You know, they took shots from pretty much everywhere on the outside. Montreal ultimately was just the more dangerous team. And then, you know, Winnipeg on Friday wasn't great. And then we had the fantastic game against the Rangers. So I mean, overall, I liked their game. I thought they were good. Like if they continue to play like this, you know, I do think that they'll be probably around a 500 team, maybe even a tiny bit above 500 for the rest of the season. I still don't think they're going to be good enough to make the playoffs, but I do think that they're a much better team than they've shown in the early going this season.
The process was there for the Flames last week. Like you go back 2 weeks ago and you're like, man, that was just horrendous in Utah. It was absolutely horrendous in Vegas. But last week I thought the process was there. And much like you, I really enjoyed watching this Flames team try to generate a lot of offense here. So it looked a lot better on the ice. The frustration for me was, of course, it was a lot of the outside play. There was a lot of 40, 45-minute efforts rather than 60 minutes. You saw the team not be able to take advantage of some opportunities. And they played some teams that have the opportunity, and they have those game breakers that you just don't have on the Flames right now, that came through and were able to be successful for those teams who came through here. I laugh at the Dustin Wolf discourse that we saw on social media and the evolution of what's wrong with Dustin Wolf to, oh my gosh, this guy's going to win the Vezina Trophy as the week went on. Like, you're asking this guy to give up 1 or less every single night because your team can't score more than 1 every day. And people are, what's wrong with Wolf? I found that to be an absolute hilarious thing. And then they couldn't praise him enough last night on social media. So Dustin Wolf, I thought, had a really good week. I'm surprised we didn't see Cooley for a game this week. I'm sure we'll see him in this coming up road trip. But I thought the process overall would be my biggest takeaway from last week. As much as the frustration of the losses piling up and the inability in the third period to get the next goal or to put a team away or to hold a lead. Much as that frustration was around last week and still is around on social media, the process for me was a lot better these last few games, and it paid off against the Rangers Sunday night. You scored 5 goals, all on Igor Shesterkin, so it wasn't an empty net goal in there anywhere. You scored a variety of different ways against the Rangers as well. And I found that last night against the Rangers, that was probably their best defensive effort of the season. And I know the bar's low there, but very good sound positionally. They took away the seams. They had active sticks defensively. Guys like even Jake Bean had a really good game last night, I thought, and guys were actually playing to the back of their hockey cards and what we come to expect from these guys. And so it's a very positive sign from the Flames. For me now, the question is, Robert, going forward, can they find that consistently? Because that's been a big problem for this team as well. And so consistency is the key here for me going forward, because I got big games coming up this week as well.
Yeah, and like another thing I noticed this week was, I mean, based off like kind of the numbers I just talked about, it almost looks like they're playing like Daryl Sutter hockey right now. Like it looks like it's like very tight checking, taking shots from everywhere. Like what happened last night was, for the first time this whole season, the Flames finally got some bounces.
Yep.
You look at some of the goals that they scored, like the 5th goal, the Blake Coleman goal, takes like a weird bounce and kind of flutters over Shesterkin. That hasn't happened all season. Kevin Ball taking that shot from the point. The Flames have taken a million shots from the point like that this year. That one finally goes in, where all the others haven't gone in yet. So, it's like little things like that. Yegor Sharangovich, he gets that shot off from the slot. It doesn't fully beat Shesterkin, but it somehow kind of squeaks its way through to the back of the net. Those are the types of bounces this team have not been getting all season. So it was nice to kind of see the tide turn a little bit in that regard. But yeah, I do think it's interesting. It does feel like Ryan Huska, at least over the last week, he's really taken a page out of the Daryl Sutter, how to play hockey at 5-on-5, which is just a lot of shot attempts. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of get the puck on net and go hard to the net and see if you can bang something home, score ugly goals, because this team doesn't have the top end talent to make those fancy plays, to score easy goals. They can't really do that. So, Ryan Huska, I think he looked like he made an adjustment over the last week, and I think it paid off. I mean, like I said in those numbers, they were literally a top 10 team at 5-on-5. If they could just clean up their special teams a little bit and get a couple more bounces to go their way, all of a sudden they're going to be a much better team than they've shown that they are early on this year.
That's a really good point. Like it felt like almost like Huska went into the room and be like, okay, guys, let's simplify this to the most simplification of we can of this game of hockey. Protect our crease and just put everything onto their crease and then crash and bang after that. And it definitely did pay off in this team. You mentioned as well that this is a tough road for the Flames, and the playoffs are still probably a long shot away. I think we saw that last night. The Flames get a really good win. You feel good morale. Then you go back and you look at the standings, Robert, and they won, but so did everybody else. And so you're still in 32nd in the league right now, even with a positive win. So to dig yourself out of this hole is going to take a lot of more efforts like they had against the Rangers and a lot more games like that for them to dig their way out of this big hole they put themselves in, because San Jose seems to have taken a step here. They're playing some really good hockey right now. You got all these teams around them that are picking up these points, and so you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole. You have a really good game, and you're still in 32nd. It just speaks to how important it is to get off to good starts in the season and to not put yourself behind the 8 ball like they did. So nice that they broke the slide, the 8-game slide, because that was a slog, and they get back into the win column here. So sitting at 2-7-1 through the first 10 games played, that's 5 points on the season for 32nd overall, but very positive signs coming from the Flames here. Let's talk about, you mentioned Huska.
I just want to add on top
jump
of that
in there
quickly. The other issue that they're running into is that other teams around them have taken that step forward, like you just mentioned, and like a couple of them, Utah, they're 8-2 out of the gate. I don't think we really expected that. The Seattle Kraken are 5-2-2 to start the season.
Didn't expect that one.
Definitely not. Anaheim has had a decent start. They've only played 8 games, but they're 4-3-1. They've been decent. And then the other thing too is that there's been some really good teams that have also got off to bad starts. Like I take a look at the Edmonton Oilers, 4-4-2. You know that they're going to be way better. St. Louis is going to be better. Minnesota is going to be better. So it's not only do you have teams that have taken a step forward in the Western Conference, but you also have really good teams that have got off to bad starts that are the types of teams that can climb themselves out of the hole they're in. It puts Calgary behind the 8 ball even more than they already are. And like another team I'm just seeing, Chicago. Chicago's off to a really good start. Could they take a step and be a 500 team? Like, everyone's getting better around them, or some of the good teams that got off to bad starts, they're going to take a step forward. How do the Flames climb themselves out of the hole with all that in mind? It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot. And you're seeing a lot of 3-point games early this season. Like last night, Edmonton, Vancouver went to overtime. In division, you're seeing these teams pick up these extra points. So it's a lot on the table here. So that start really put the Flames behind the 8 ball, and now they have a huge hole to dig out of. You mentioned the adjustments by Ryan Huska a little bit and what you saw from the playing style of the Flames. And we both agree that we like what we saw from the Rangers last night. He also made some interesting lineup decisions this last week. He sat Sharon Govich earlier in the month. He sat Coronado on Sunday. What do you make of him and his decisions here with his lineup? He's not hesitant, it looks like, to sit guys, and important guys at that.
Yeah, it seems like because of the start to the season that he's just looking for answers, and he hasn't really been able to find any yet. The one part of the lineup that is actually playing really well lately, and it seems like they've gotten some continuity, is on defense. So you got Ball and Anderson. Like, it seems like they're never going to be split apart. But all of a sudden, Mackenzie Weegar and Jake Bean have put together some really solid games together. Like,
yeah, they look good.
They do look good. And I'm kind of surprised by that, because I know heading into the year, I know like you and I and a lot of other Flames fans out there were not sold that Jake Bean is an everyday NHL player. But over the last week here, he's stepped up and he's played some really good hockey with Mackenzie Weegar. And then you got Hanley and Appreicate who have looked pretty decent together. So it seems like Huska's found continuity there. The forward lines are a mess right now. They're all over the map. He scratches Matt Coronado on Sunday, which I thought made no sense. I get it in the grand scheme of things. It's one game. Who cares? It's just going to be a quick reset for Coronado, and he'll be back in the lineup against Toronto tonight. But just like, why are you scratching Matt Coronado? Like, what's that all about? And that was kind of bizarre. Moving Frost to the wing is an interesting move. Never scratching Ryan Lomberg, consistently keeping Justin Kirkland in the lineup are definitely questionable decisions. So, there are times when it's not easy to be a Huska defender. Mm-hmm. Like I know I am. And, when he does things like scratch Matt Coronado and juggles the lines every second period, it feels like it is kind of hard to defend, but at the same time, there are some decent things too.
I'm going to jump in there, and I'm like you. I like to try to defend Ryan Huska here. And so what I did when I saw the Matt Coronado news is it did catch me off guard a little bit, because you want the young players playing. You want to try to get his confidence. But I really took a step back, and I'm like, I wonder if we took the nameplate off the back and we put a different nameplate on there, if people would actually be upset over this scratch, because he hasn't been that great. He really hasn't. 2 goals came in the one game, and he played a good game against St. Louis, but he really struggled last week. I think he got lost in that game against Winnipeg. And so I think a reset for Matt Coronado actually was a smart move by Ryan Huska. Not the move I personally would have done. I think I would have put him in a better situation to be successful on the ice personally, but I can understand the move if I take a step back and take the nameplate out of it, because we kind of praised Huska when he scratched Sharon Govich when he struggled, because he kind of earned that scratch. I think we should give him a bit of a benefit of a doubt here, because he's in that room. He knows guys need. He's had conversations. So I don't mind the scratch of Matt Coronado, because he came out and said it was a one-game thing. It was a reset. He'll be back in there against Toronto, and I think we expect to see a very revitalized Matt Coronado, motivated Matt Coronado. And so I don't think you can always go down that well with some players, but I think a one-off. I think we saw that happen with Matthew Tkachuk when he was a young player. We saw it with Johnny Gaudreau when he was a young player. I don't think it's a bad thing to have a kid sit and watch. The timing can be interesting for some people, but I think what Ryan Huska's trying to do here, and like you mentioned earlier, he's trying to find some answers here. He's got a lot of guys who are on that list of could use a night off. We've seen him use it twice now with Sharon Govich and now Matt Coronado. When he can find these guys going here, get some answers going here, the one thing a coach has in his power is ice time and an opportunity to reward guys or sit guys to help try to motivate these guys along. So I don't mind that Matt Coronado Saturday game, I expect to see him with tons of energy in Toronto and see how he responds there. But I would at the same breath, I would like to see Ryan Huska allow some forward groupings to get some chemistry, to get some time together, to allow them to see if they can get something going. I thought Morgan Frost last night with Kadri and Kadri and Huberdeau had a fairly good game. Leave them together. Let them have a couple more games. See if there's actually something there longer term than switching it every 3 or 4 periods, because it can get a little bit. How do I want to say that? Just like again,
stale.
Yeah, we're gonna make the blender out again. Like, what are we doing? Like, that was one thing about Sutter. He liked to blend his lines up a lot. Just let these guys get some chemistry now and see if these scratchings or less ice time or more ice time to reward a guy really pays off at the end of the day, because you don't know unless you let these guys play together here. So that's where I would go with Ryan Huska and what I've seen over the last couple of games here.
Yeah, and like the discourse online is a little overblown. Like I see so many people out there that are like, fire Huska. Why'd you give him that extension? I think it's way too early to be having those conversations. Yes, there are some questionable lineup decisions. We've touched on that today, but overall, I still think he's a fine coach. I still think he's a really good person, a really good leader. I still think he's good for this team. I really do truly believe that. And I know the awful start to the season has not helped with that type of messaging, but I guarantee you, just with the way they played over the last week, like, you can see that they're coming out of it. They're going to start to be a half decent team. Like, once again, I don't think they have the talent to be a playoff team. I think they've dug themselves too far a hole to be a playoff team. But from this point on till the end of the season, it would not surprise me if they were 19th in the league, 18th in the league in terms of points percentage and points. Like, that kind of thing wouldn't surprise me. So I still believe in the guy. I still think he's a good coach. I think he's trying to do the right things. But yeah, could he fix some stuff with his lineup decisions? I totally do think that. Number one, like, where does Matt Coronado fit on this team when he gets back in the lineup tonight? That's going to be something really interesting to see, because, like you said, I thought the Huberdeau line played well against the Rangers. The Backlund, Coleman, Honzig line was excellent. I thought Zary, Farabee, and Sharon Govich started to show some chemistry. All of a sudden, it's like, where are you going to put Matt Coronado in this lineup? Are you going to take Sharon Govich out again, even though he just scored? Like, I don't think you're taking Farabee out. I don't think you're taking Coleman, Backlund, Honzig out. Is he going to be on a fourth line and you take out Adam Klapka? Like, that's going to be really interesting to see what he ends up doing with that.
Yeah, I agree. Let me jump back to Huska real quick here, and then I'll get into this lineup thing. If you're going to fire Huska or get rid of Huska, you're signaling you're starting over again. And this would make another head coach. Every other season, there seems to be a new head coach, and you're starting over again. So really firing Huska, really, what does that accomplish? We talked about the big hole the Flames are in to start the season. They put themselves there. They're trying to get themselves out of there. Does a new head coach get them out of that hole? Is that big of a difference maker? I think people have to realize that they'll complain about this roster and they complain about the coach's job. Well, you got a flawed roster with the coach who's trying to get the best out of that flawed roster. We saw it last season where he got a lot out of this group. Why would you question that after 10 games into a season that he can't do the same thing again? Now, playoffs is a different story, but that is what it is. But that's what I want to mention there. Is just like, you're going to fire Huska, is really you want to start over yet again.
Like, don't you want continuity? This team
exactly.
Has never had that at the head coaching position. Like, I honestly, I don't even know who the longest tenured head coach is in Flames history. Like, was it like Bob Johnson for like 4 years in the 1980s, or 4 or 5 years?
It was Johnson.
Like, that's it. Like, they've never had a coach for like more than 5 years, which is insane, if you ask me. So I actually think it's nice to have some continuity there. It's instead of going through a coach every second year. It's nice to have Huska maybe be around for 4, 5, 6 years and start to actually build something here. Because it always feels like the coach comes in, the Flames get that new coach bounce, then the next season they have a terrible year and they're out. And it's like that over and over and over and over again. And it's annoying. It's super annoying. I do think Huska could be a long-term coach for this team. I really do believe that.
I mean, you get that new coach bump, but every single head coach that comes into the Flames does the same thing. They're doing exactly what Ryan Huska has done with the team this year. Simplify the game, Work on your defensive structure, make sure you're good in your own end, and hope that you get enough offense. Every new head coach that comes to Calgary since Sutter was here the first time, that's what they've done. Every single one of them. The other Sutters did it. Don Hay did it back in the day when he got an opportunity. You saw what Bob
Pierre
Hartley's
Page.
system does. All those guys, they all do the same thing. They have to start with the defensive structure and get that established. And so over and over. And so we're just going to restart over and over. So Ryan Huska already has a system. People might hate it. You see on the line, we talked about that last week as well. But the structure defensively, he has it in place. They're playing that game. They're playing that system. They're just not good enough, right, talent-wise, to maybe have the other side of the game yet. The scoring is obviously lacking. The ability to trap teams on a counterattack is a bit lacking, and that will come over the course of time when you get more talent in your lineup. But why would you? A new head coach, I don't think, pulls them out of any sort of funk because they just aren't talented enough to do it. I think replacing Huska at this point of the season after 10 games, it'd be more of a panic move than a beneficial move for the Calgary Flames. As for Matt Coronado coming back into the lineup, I would put him right back with, I know Hansik's been good there, but I put him right back with Backlund and Coleman. You saw that success last year. It's a line that they're going to make you work. They're going to pull you into the game. They're going to put you in the fabric of the game. Backlund's going to draw you. He's going to lead you, and I think that's a good spot for him. And then I think you work around that, whether that's putting Hansik with Zary on a line or something. And I think it's really easy. I think Kirkland or I can't even say his name. Blomberg comes out of the lineup. You have fourth line guys, they're rotational guys. Use them as such, and make adjustments that way. There are ways to get this guy back in the lineup, get him reacclimated to this team, and allow him to go off and hit the road running. You want to use that scratch as a motivational tool for Coronado. Put him in a place to be successful and see how much motivation he actually took from that, and let him go. That's where I'd put him, anyways.
I want to do a little trivia here. Can you name every Flames head coach since the lockout?
No.
There's too many of them?
It's because every other year you're going through a different guy. You go from Peters, and then you put in Jeff Ward, and then you have Glenn Galton gets a turn. Then let's run it back with Sutter again, and then you have Bob Hartley's in there somewhere, and then Ryan Huska's in there. You got a bunch of guys in there, and it's every other year, it feels like.
Yeah, and you can't forget the legendary run of Jeff Ward and Bill Peters and Jim Playfair, Mike Keenan. Oh, baby, we've had some good coaches here in Calgary.
Man, that Playfair to Keenan one always bugs me because Jim Playfair actually did not get a fair shake. That guy had a team going. He was a rookie head coach in the league. There was not a bad season by any stretch. Like, really, if you go back and look at it, then they fire him just to bring in Mike Keenan, and Mike Keenan had a worse year than Jim Playfair.
And the players hated Mike Keenan. They hated his guts. Yeah. It was a bizarre move by Daryl Sutter. Daryl, the coach, fantastic. The X's and O's, everything. One of the greatest of all time. Daryl, the manager, horrific. Yeah. Really could not have had a worse run as general manager back in the day.
He hired Keenan to get him in the playoffs, and he hired Keenan, I think, based on the name only.
Oh, for sure.
Mike Keenan hasn't been a good head coach in decades in the National Hockey League, and he gets in here and he's all like, and I think Jim Playfair had that team going in a direction that you come back a second year, the message is the same. The overall rosters were fairly similar from year to year. And Mike Keenan goes in there and he just runs them down, and it just wasn't a good mixture. Keenan and Sutter in the same organization at the same time. That's a lot of
personality,
a lot of scowling, and a lot of personality, and a lot of alpha dog in there. And it just was, in my opinion, just wasn't a good mix.
Well, I know like Robin Regier has come out publicly and said how much he hated playing for Mike Keenan. Like I know there was always rumors that Jerome despised playing for Keenan. Like I think after Keenan's last season in Calgary, he had essentially told the Flames it's either me or Keenan. You know, like that's how bad it got with that guy. So kind of interesting.
It's just not great. Yeah, not great. So stop hiring all these other head coaches. Yes. Let a coach get in here. And does Ryan Huska ultimately lead the Flames where they need to go? I don't know. I really don't know. But given the small sample size, this guy squeezed so much out of the sponge last year from this group that you have to give him the benefit. I think you have to give him the benefit of the doubt here. Who had the Flames as a clear playoff team last year? A lot of people that I saw were picking that team to finish fifth, sixth in the division, and they finished with a tiebreaker to miss the playoffs. So I think you got to give Ryan a little bit of leeway here. 10 games, it has been a struggle. It's not been pretty from a lot of guys, but I put a lot of that blame on the players. Kadri started slow. He wasn't great till the last couple of games. You missed Huberdeau for a few games. You had a lot of guys struggling. Sharon Govich was terrible at the beginning of the year.
Everyone was struggling. There wasn't one guy that was playing to expectations. They were all bad.
Yeah, it was awful.
Maybe outside Kevin Ball.
Farabee couldn't score a goal. Frost went invisible. Coronado wasn't scoring goals. Sharon Govich needed to be scratched. Your fourth line was the best line for a handful of games to start this year, and that's not a good thing when Ryan Lomberg and Klapka are providing you with your most exciting offensive explosion side of the games. The defense up until, I would say, 2 games ago was just dreadful. They were dreadful to start this year. We talked, 2 podcasts ago about how bad Hanley had been, and Weir had some really awful errors, and Anderson was on the minus already, and Kevin Ball didn't look like Kevin Ball, and now we're praising these guys a little bit for their turnaround here. So you had a slow start. Yes, some of that's on the coach, but the players have to wear a fair bit of that as well, because it's just Ryan Huska is not going to be the one scoring the goals. He can only give you the message, and he can only give you the game plan so far, and these players have to take it to the next level. So we saw when these guys are engaged a little more. Kadri has looked really, really good the last 3 or 4 games, and he was tremendous against the Rangers. I think Huberdeau's picked his game up. I really like what I saw from Zary and Sharon Govich against the Rangers as well. Probably easily their best games of the year, and you saw that from a lot of different guys. When they're engaged and when they're performing, no one's questioning Ryan Huska. Now the question is, well, Ryan Huska has a winning lineup. Does he put Coronado back in? That's the discourse I've heard from a couple of podcasts this morning that I've listened to already. A couple of shows this week already I've listened to. The discourse went from why is he scratching Coronado to, well, how do you put Coronado back into a winning lineup? That's the mental gymnastics some people are putting themselves through over the Flames right now. Just simplify things. Let Ryan Huska do his job and put some pressure on these players. Start to perform, because we needed to perform for this way. So
yeah, and just to tie a bow on the Huska conversation,
yeah,
I could almost guarantee what's going to happen is he's going to stick around for the next 2, maybe 3 years. He'll be that coach that he's going to be there through the transition from going where they are now through the little bit of a rebuild, and then once the team kind of needs to take that next step, whether that's the 27-28 or 28-29 season, whatever it is, I think that's when the Flames will probably make a coaching change and look for somebody to take them to the next level. That's kind of how I see it playing out with Huska. I don't see him going anywhere within the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, that seems like the game plan of a lot of teams that are trying to build, right? We saw the Anaheim Ducks just do that. They had a couple of guys, and now they have Coach Q in there. They seem to have taken a step. So, yeah, I definitely can see it that way. That leads us to the Craig Conroy conversation, because 10 games in, you've only got the 5 points. How does Craig Conroy approach the rest of this season? We have a lot of trade talk right now, and if fans had it their way, there's a chunk of this fan base that would have 6 guys traded out by tomorrow. Where do you sit here, Robert, with how Craig Conroy should approach the rest of the season, and if or when should he start making all these moves?
Get the for sale sign out, get your hammer out, and smack that thing into the grass outside the Saddle Dome. I put a big for sale sign out there. Almost anybody on this roster is available for trade. For me, if you go through the roster, these are the guys who I would be open to moving. Kadri, Anderson, Coleman, Frost, Farabee, Sharon Govich, Lomberg, Kirkland, Bean, Hanley, Pahal.
It's almost easier to list people you wouldn't trade.
Totally. If you're a younger player, you're not going anywhere. If you're a guy who's signed long-term, you're not really going anywhere. But the guys or if you're the captain, Michael Backlund, you're not going anywhere. But the guys I mentioned, if I'm Craig Conroy, I reach out to every single general manager this week, and I tell them every single one of these players are on the trade block. Here is my price for each one of them. And if you meet that price or exceed that price, then we can find a way to make a deal between now and the trade deadline. If you don't meet that price, then we probably won't move on from them. That's kind of how I see it playing out, because this group of players, they've been together since the 2022-23 season. They've almost made it that year. Then they had a bad year in 23-24. They almost made it last year. They're off to a bad start this year. This team is not good enough to make the playoffs They've shown that over the last 3-4 seasons. They're also not good enough. Like, even if they do miraculously come out of this hole that they've dug for themselves, they come out and make the playoffs somehow, which I don't see happening. But if they do, they don't stand a chance in the playoffs. So it's just like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we holding on to so many of these guys? It doesn't make sense. So if I'm Conroy, all these guys are for sale. And the big one for me is like, there's way too many mediocre sort of bottom 9 forwards on this team, maybe even bottom 6. Like, there's like a sea of Joel Farabees right now. there's way too many of them, and you'd like to see guys like Roy Cairns and Matt Vagridden, maybe even a guy like William Stromgren, Sam Morton. You want to see those types of players get opportunities, but there's literally nowhere in the roster right now for them to play.
Mm-hmm.
The forward group is just so jammed. Like we were just talking about it with Matt Coronado. Like, where are you going to put him in the lineup when he comes back after being a healthy scratch? There's too many forwards. They need to make a couple moves here. And like I said, in that forward group, whether it's Kadri, Coleman, Frost, Farabee, Sharangovich, I don't know if anyone's going to take Sharangovich, but those are the types of players they need to move out. I'd even throw maybe Pospisil in that group. I know they just signed him. Is he totally necessary? Has Adam Klapka kind of taken over for him in that role that he plays? So yeah, if I'm Conroy, it's like everyone's for sale. Like this is a fire sale. This is a rebuild. I want to get as many prospects and picks as possible, particularly draft picks, because I think that's like the greatest currency in the NHL, because you can use them in trades or you can use them in the draft, which the Flames have crushed the last 2 years. So sell 100%. Sell all these guys. I'm all for it.
The approach to the season was to be 1 point better, be 97 points. To get to 97 points, I'm not even going to do the math. I didn't even do the math, but you've heard the numbers from a lot of different places.
Yeah, you got to play at like a 640 winning percentage.
Yes, like ridiculous level.
Top 5 team in the NHL.
Just to make the wild card. Let's put that in perspective. That's to be 8th, right? That's for the right to play what looks like a buzzsaw in Vegas or a buzzsaw in Colorado. Like, so you want to play that level of hockey for the rest of the year to have an opportunity to be swept in round 1, to do the Daryl Sutter thing, to waste your 8 days. So I think Craig Conroy is smart enough to realize I don't think they're getting to 97 points. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. So let's make the pivot, because your next talking point for a lot of fans is be good for the new building. Well, there's a lot of guys here that aren't going to be around for the new building. So let's take advantage of the opportunity. There are teams out there that are going to be looking for some depth. Well, that speaks to Joel Farabee. That speaks to Sharangovich, if someone's willing to take that contract. That speaks to, hey, can Morgan Frost be a really good 3C for us on this roster? Imagine a Morgan Frost boostering, like, say, Colorado's center group. You know, he's a really good 3C in that group, just for an example. There are teams out there looking for a second-line center. How good would Nazem Kadri be in Carolina or Montreal as a 2C and on those teams help bolster those rosters? You go down the list. How good would Hanley be back in Dallas has their number 6-7? Those type of things are what the Flames should definitely be looking at. I'm with you. Put the clearance sign on the Saddle Dome. Everything must go here. You know, take this player from us. Take that player from us. Here, have these extra water bottles if that's what it takes to sweeten a deal to help someone move something along, so you can get the maximum value back for each of these players that you're trying to move out here. I don't think there are very many untouchables on this group. If you get a call about Ryan Lomberg, absolutely. Adam Klapka, I'll look at it. Pospisil, yeah, I'm going to take a look at it. If they make sense, there's where I'm going to stop my just sell everything out the door. It's still got to make sense for this roster. You just can't be giving away Nazem Kadri for a 6th round pick and a C-level prospect. You got to get your value back for these guys, but you've got to do it with the mind, in my opinion, for, hey, we're 2 years out from this new building. If everything goes to plan, let's put on a team that might not be a winner when it first get in there, but a team that's going to be exciting to watch. And how do you do that? You move players out so you can bring in your young kids, your Griddens. Hansa gets more playing time. Bristavich gets a call up. You can see what you got in Kuznetsov, what Rory Cairns can bring to the lineup. And then down the road, when your college kids start coming out of there, what is Henry Muse? Well, let's find out. Let's get these players in here. Let's get them excited. Everyone's excited to see what Reshny brings at the end of the day. You do that by moving out your veterans. You realize that this season, people are going to call it a lost season. I think this is a good evaluation season for the Flames. And how do you do that? Well, move those veterans out of the way so a guy like Matthew Grenade can come up and start scoring goals for the Flames rather than look like an absolute stud for the Wranglers. So I'm with you there, Robert. Let make it a sell-off, but make it a smart sell-off because you have a lot to look forward to down the road here for the Flames.
Yeah, and like I said, like you set your prices, and that's what you're going to ask for, and that's what you're going to get in a trade. And now listen, like if they say we want a 4th round pick for Joel Hanley, and someone says, well, we'll give you a 5th, and it's the trade deadline, you take the 5th, like that type of situation. But you're right, like if someone's lowballing you on Kadri, you're absolutely not doing that because you have time with him, and same with a few of the other players we mentioned there. The thing that worries me, though, is just it's ownership. It's Don Maloney. Do they say to themselves, we need these guys for next season because we want to be competitive next season. So, we still have term on Kadri. We still have term on Farabee and Frost and all these guys. And, we need them for next year because we have to be competitive next year. That's where the shift needs to happen. Ownership and Don Maloney need to come together and admit to themselves finally that this is not the group that you want going forward. By the time this team is actually good again, none of these players that we just listed off will be on this team. It's time to accept a couple bad years of Flames hockey in order to take the next step and try to become a legit contender. That's what ownership Maloney needs to do. I'm skeptical that they're going to do it because they've never done it. And I guess we'll just have to see how it plays out. But it's so obvious what they need to do here. Yep. It's painful that this organization continues to kind of, walk around that whole idea. Like it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, this can't be a 1-year thing. Everyone who thinks that, okay, a 1-year step back, we'll get Gavin McKenna, and then we're good to go again. No. You move out these veterans so you have this year to evaluate. You have next year to start pushing forward a little bit, get another good young player in the 27 draft, and then maybe do the same thing in 28 as well. Have a 2 or 3 year, maybe 4-year thing where you just take a small step back for long-term success. Look at what we just saw from Montreal this past week. They spent 5 years outside the playoffs, 6 years outside the playoffs. They spent 5 years picking in the top 10. And what do they have to show for it? A young, exciting roster led by Nick Suzuki because they moved out Pacioretty. That's what they did. They took a good player, a solid player in their lineup in Pacioretty, moved him along, and were able to get Nick Suzuki. Nick Suzuki's an incredible player. He's fun to watch. Was he an immediate success in Montreal? No, they struggled. Then they were able to add those other guys to the lineup. Who would want a Hudson and a Demidov on the roster right now? Right, great, exciting young players that you see them push forward. That's what I think the Flames should be doing here, not the Dallas quick fix that everyone tried to point to as being as a way to be successful. That doesn't always work. What does work, though, I think, is getting young talent in the building and allowing that young talent to be the foundation of your team going forward. So as much as you respect Kadri, as much as we like talking about Anderson and these guys and what they've done for this organization, what's best for them is to let them go chase Stanley Cups while you do what's best for your organization. That's bring in these kids and give your chance of success. We talked before we started recording here. We brought up the name Macklin Celebrini. And I said I would trade this entire team outside of Dustin Wolf for Macklin Celebrini because he's an exciting player you can build around. That's what the Flames are missing. And that would be the point of me trading these veterans right now. Find 2 or 3 young kids to build around, to be exciting, and to build for the future. And I really hope that Conroy's voice can be a little bit louder than Maloney's voice or anybody else who's trying to push back on that because it needs to happen. Otherwise, in a year and a half from now, we're going to be sitting here around the trade deadline next year going, we're sitting in that ninth spot again. Here comes the mediocrity again, mushy middle again, all because they wanted to see another year of Nazem Kadri and Rasmus Anderson.
And like another interesting thing to point out is just the Flames aren't starting from scratch when it comes to a rebuild.
100%.
Like, you take a look at some of the rebuilds that have gone on in the NHL, like whether it's the Chicago Blackhawks recently, San Jose Sharks, Anaheim Ducks, like those teams that have really gone in that kind of scorched earth rebuild. They literally started from scratch with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The Calgary Flames are not in that situation. They have a lot of really good prospects. They have some good young players on the NHL roster, signed to long-term deals. There's a foundation that's being built here. You just need that one or two more elite level forwards in particular, and in my opinion, another defenseman or two to get you over the top. And that's probably what the next 2 or 3 years are for. And then once you get those guys, all of a sudden you're on a rocket ship, and you're going to be surging, and you're going to become a legitimate playoff team for a long time. And that's when you make money. Like if you're Murray Edwards, that's when you start to make money. It's you move into your new building and you have a really good young team that the city is excited about, that they're willing to pay $100+ a ticket and $20 a beer or whatever stupid price they're going to make it. That's when you start making money. So just have a couple bad years here. Every team does it. Every good team does it. Sacrifice just a couple so you can have 12 or 15 really fun, good years of hockey. I don't think that's asking too much. Short-term pain for long-term gain.
Yeah, and the short-term pain doesn't have to be that painful. Look at I'm going to go to San Jose again.
They're exciting.
How exciting was that? If you watch, I've watched quite a few games of theirs this season. If you watch their home games, that crowd's engaged. That crowd's out of their seats. They're seeing 11 and 12 goals a night because San Jose can't keep anything out of their net. But at the same time, they have Celebrini there. Will Smith's an exciting player. People are really excited about what Misa's bringing to the lineup. Eklund's there. Like, they have these guys that are exciting to watch. And that building, while they're not winning a ton of hockey games, they're selling tickets, right? And that owner is reaping the benefits of the tickets and the $36 hamburgers. Like, that's what you want for the Flames. So why not do it right now when it's right in front of your face and you have every opportunity to do it? You have some really good high-end talent in the 26th draft, and you've got some elite guys coming in the 27 draft that's projected. 2 years, I don't think is a lot to ask for fans either, right? A lot of fans, if you ask them, in 3 seasons, the Flames are going to be this exciting young team to watch. Will you take the pain? I think you'll get a lot of yeses in there because people will understand what you're doing. And this is a hockey market. These fans are absolutely crazy. You watch social media and you watch people, are very passionate about their team. I think they'd get behind this because that's what they want to see. They don't want to see mediocrity anymore. As much as we like those players over 3, like I'm a big Backlund fan. I like Coleman. I do like what Kadri brings to the Flames lineup. But do I really want to see a 36-year-old Nazem Kadri and an aging Backlund, or do I want to see a young, say we do get Gavin McKenna and a Landon DuPont down the road? Those are exciting players, and that's what you want to watch. All due respect to these older veterans, let them go cup chase while you actually build a foundation here. I hope we get something a little bit different from this Flames group, because I'm with you, Robert. I do see next year the mandate again is back to the playoffs. And it's a re-signing of Rasmus Anderson. It's Nazem Kadri still kicking around. Blake Coleman's around here still. They go to the free agency market and they find themselves another defenseman to add to the group rather than allow their young kids to come up and play. I can see that happening because that's what we've seen in the past. So I hope I'm wrong here, and I hope we see it. I hope we just see the Flames do it properly. A couple years of pain, man. That's all we're asking.
And a reason why I think you and I are concerned about the idea of the Flames wanting to be competitive again next season is because we heard it from John Bean, 2 or 3 years ago, when he said, I'm not allowed to say the word rebuild.
Yep.
That says it all right there. The president of the team, he's not allowed to say the word rebuild. So Don Maloney's in the exact same position. You know that Robert Hayes is in the exact same position. Ownership will not let this team fully rebuild. And like you heard it from John Bean's mouth. Like he said it. I'm not allowed to say rebuild. So that's why it's a little concerning from an ownership perspective that they're not going to be willing to, tank for a couple years here and get those type of prospects the Flames are going to need. That's the one thing that concerns me. I genuinely believe Conroy knows that this is the right way to go about things. Mm-hmm. Will he be allowed to go about it that way? And we don't know because ownership never talks, and which I think is a little ridiculous. Like they're like the boogeyman. Like you hear about them all the time. You never see them. I would like to hear more from the business side of the Flames because I think that would reassure fans a little bit more.
Yeah,
that'll never happen.
It'll never happen. how you judge the future behavior of this owner is to go to the past.
Totally.
What did we see after the 2015 season? Oh, well, let's double down here. And then you get those stupid contracts to Bolig and Brower and so on and so forth. And then when Gaudreau and Tkachuk said they wanted to move on, what did the Flames do instead of okay, let's reset here? Bring in Huberdeau and Weegar. I love both those guys, so don't get me wrong. But it was a move for veteran players rather than going the other direction. So we've seen it over and over. The Flames are presented with an opportunity to go, okay, we need to reset here because that's what the roster is dictating to us, what the league is kind of showing us as we're playing these games. Instead, it's, okay, which veterans can we go out and sign here? Troy Brouwer should never have gotten that money that he did from anybody in the league. Yet the Flames ponied right on up, gave him that extra year as well so we could get that contract. We've seen
James
it
Neal.
over, and James Neal's a really good one. You know, I don't want to be negative Nancy over here and be like, no, I don't see it happening, because
You're not being negative. You're just telling the truth. This is the reality.
It's what we've seen. It's what we've seen since 2004 is the Flames always going back to the well and bringing in the aging veterans. When you have these kids, you cannot tell me if you took Blake Coleman on a lot of put Gridden in that there would be this big uproar because we put a young kid in the lineup. I don't think we'd see that ever. But what we've seen is, Matt McGridden, you're going to spend next year in the American Hockey League because we have to get Blake Coleman to play 25 minutes a night or whatever it is that he plays. We've seen it over and over and over. So the opportunity here is for Conroy. I hope his voice can be loud enough that he overrides a few people in that office and he just tells Murray Edwards, no. We have to do this. Otherwise, this team is who wants to watch mediocrity in 3 years? Because I certainly don't.
Murray Edwards does.
Apparently, because he likes that year to year. I've mentioned it more than once. I firmly believe that guy only works year to year and he doesn't look down the road. And it confuses me because that's not how business works. And he's a smart businessman. He knows what he knows what his businesses are going to be doing in 5 years, the projections, what he'd like to see in growth, and how to get and achieve those goals. He's smart. That's why he's a billionaire. But hockey-wise, I don't think he gets it. I just really don't think he gets it, and it's painful.
It's totally bizarre. I remember I was at a event that we ran, like at the business school I was at in Victoria, and you remember Brett Wilson?
Yep.
The entrepreneur or whatever.
Yep.
So he came and spoke to our business program, and I remember going up to him after, and I asked him about Murray Edwards because I know that him and Murray are tight. Because I literally don't know anything about Murray Edwards. Nobody knows anything about Murray Edwards. So I was just curious, and I went up to him. I was just like, hey, I'm just curious, what is Murray Edwards like? And he told me that he is by far and away the smartest person that he has ever come across. And what he'll do is, he's able to absorb information quicker and more thoroughly than anyone he's ever met. So he'll say, you'll have a conversation with Murray, he'll learn about your business, and if you see him a year later, he would ask you about how are things going with your business and X, Y, and Z that you told me about before. And if you get a detail wrong, he'll call you out on it. He's got that type of memory. He's that smart. So for a guy that's smart, that's successful in business. He runs one of the biggest oil and gas companies in North America. You have to be a brilliant human being to do something like that. So for him to be so short-sighted with the Flames, it's just it's kind of bizarre. It just doesn't make sense to me. I really don't get it. And sure, maybe this year behind the scenes he is saying, okay, let's take a step back. We don't know, but just like you said, based off of his history, it's very likely that he's not saying that. So it's a very strange situation. I really would appreciate if that guy were to step up and to actually speak to the media once a year. I think that's all we're asking for. Even the president of the team, Robert Hayes, speak to the fans like a legit media interview. Speak to them once a year, once or twice a year. I think that's all fans are really asking for.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not that hard either.
No. It's frustrating because it's been multiple general managers and multiple head coaches do the same thing over and over and over again. And hopefully one of these days, that Murray Edwards that lets them actually do what we want. Because you have to ask the question now, and you've asked it to me in our rundown here, Robert. How are the veterans going to handle all this losing? How are they going to handle this? Are they going to be around next year? What happens next year when the same group is back and they have a very similar season to this? How do you handle that as a veteran hockey player? Does Nazem Kadri want to move? Does Blake Coleman want to move? I'm pretty sure Huberdeau and Weegar would like to be in a Stanley Cup final as they watch their friends down south go to 3 in a row and win 2 of them. So how do these veterans handle this always losing?
I don't know. I have no idea. Because if they continue, like if they're in dead last come January, I got to imagine these guys are going to go to management and be like, what are we doing here? Like I'm getting up there in age. I'm getting up there in my 30s. I want to win. Blake Coleman doesn't have that much time left in his prime. Nazem Kadri does not have that much time left in his prime. Mackenzie Weegar, he's the one guy I'm really interested in because, like you said, all of his buddies in Florida have gone to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. They're winning. They're having the time of their life. And Mackenzie Weegar has barely sniffed the playoffs in Calgary. They came close last year in a bit of a fluke year. If that's the only time he's even sniffed the playoffs, he's got to be pissed. He's on a great contract. There'd be a ton of teams that would want this guy. I have to imagine that there's going to come a point if the Flames are, like I said, if they're in dead last come January and it's obvious they can't climb out of it. I really wonder if he's going to go to management and be like, I can't do this anymore because I haven't come close in my first 4 years here. I'm not going to come close in the next 2 or 3. When am I going to make the playoffs? So it's going to be fascinating to see how the veterans go about it. The best thing for the Flames organization long term would be them just saying, like, I don't want to be here. And then they have to go out and make trades. That would be the best thing, in my opinion, especially for guys like Kadri and Coleman. I think you want to keep Weegar around. You still want to keep good veterans and good players around.
Yeah, you need them.
For sure you do. And he's exactly that. Like, he is the type of person I want in my organization leading the next generation. So, I would like to keep him, but it might come a point where he's going to ask, like, I can't do this anymore. And honestly, I wouldn't blame him.
Yeah, we've seen Nazem Kadri be like, no, I love it here. I like to be a Flame. I picked here for a reason. Probably money helped with that decision as well. But you have guys that are like that, like with this team, but they have to have their patience wearing thin. Like, we saw reports of anyone who listens to 32 Thoughts from Elliot Freeman. There's been teams already checking in who are on that 13-team trade list. Like, are we part of the list? Can we get in on this action? Like, let us know when you're trading this guy. So there are people out there wanting these players, and I might take a player or two to say, yeah, like, if the opportunity comes along, move me along because I'd like to win. Huberdeau, I know that contract, a lot of people think is unmovable. I think it's movable if you get the I think if you get the right situation. If he accommodates, if he makes it so anyone can take him in the league and a team comes along and thinks he can be a difference maker, you swallow money. Yes, it's a lot of money to swallow, but I think you can move that contract along. Coleman's movable. I think Weegar's movable because his contract's really, really good. Kadri's definitely movable, as we've heard the reports. Like, I don't think there are many guys on this roster that aren't movable, and guys who want out to go play for Stanley Cups, I think you can make it happen for them. I know the Huberdeau one, people give me the reaction you just gave me, Robert. I think it is. I think it is movable. I really do. Now, you're not going to have your elite top of your Vegases aren't going to be able to make that happen. But what if Tampa Bay comes along and they find a way to make the money work and you have that contract back? You don't think you can get something back for Huberdeau and move him along? I think it's possible. It's not very likely, but I think it's possible.
I'll disagree. I don't.
Sure, everyone does. Yep.
Yeah, I don't think it is possible unless this season he's closing in on a point per game, and maybe he does it again the following year. Like, he's got to prove to the NHL that he can be a $10.5 million player. Like, right now he's
that's true.
What, like a 6, maybe 7? Like, I don't even know if I'd go that far. Like, I think it'd be extremely difficult, but you never know.
I'll put an example there. Okay, and it's in division, so people are going to scoff at this too. Anse Kopitar is retiring. Okay, that opens up $10 million for LA, right? They can't get a deal done with Kempe. He goes to market. Well, how do they fill that hole? Maybe it is a Jonathan Huberdeau and somebody else that comes in there. Maybe they can strike a deal to bring in Huberdeau, with the Flames taking 20% of that money back, and because they have the cap space available. And that's a team that's on the cusp of the playoffs every year. That's a team that gets to the first round. They lose to Edmonton all the damn time, but they're there. They're in the dance. They're an opportunity to win. Something like that can come along, and I think if a team is willing to make it work, that they can make that contract work there too as well. So I think it is movable. It'll take a lot of a lot of willing on a couple of different sides, but what happens if LA comes along? They can't have Kemper back, Kempe back. Kopitar's not there anymore. He fits a spot. He fits a hole for them. Just as a thought.
Yeah. Hey, crazy things happen every day, right?
We've seen uglier contracts moved. I'll say it that way.
I don't know if we have. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I mean, the guy's he's got 5 years left after this season, or 4 years left?
The length maybe not, but I think dollar-wise, I think we've seen bad contracts. The Coyotes swallowed a lot of awful contracts for a lot of years there as well. We've done a lot on this episode, Robert. We've taken it to Murray Edwards a little bit. We've talked about the team struggles, Huska, and all that kind of stuff. Besides Dustin Wolf, is there anything positive we can take from these first 10 games?
I mean, Dustin Wolf is probably going to be my answer. He's been great the last week.
We'll gloss on him in a second here because I can't think of anything else really that I would point to and be like, this has been awesome. The stretch one for me would be I've actually liked Samuel Honzik this year.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But you're talking about one individual player who's really started to come along here after taking a lot of abuse from fans. He's really come along here. He's really shown a growth in his game. But outside of that, I can't really picture anything around this team that I've actually loved. The power play has been terrible. The penalty kill has been you're not seeing a lot from the depth of the roster. You're not getting a lot of scoring, obviously. Defensively, they've been a black hole for a lot of games this season. You look around this roster, the coaching staff, you can question a lot of things they've been doing. There's just not a lot of positives for me this year, Robert, from this team other than Dustin Wolf. And I don't like that. I really don't like that because you want to have some positives around the team because you don't always want to be a negative podcast. There are other Flame podcasts out there, and all due respect to them, they do a really good job in what they're trying to do. It's a lot of negative talk around this team, and I don't want to be the same way, but what is there to be positive about with this roster? You need a lot more from a lot of guys. A lot of things are lacking from this roster, and going forward, you look at the upcoming road trip, it doesn't get any easier for this team schedule-wise either. What's there to be positive besides Dustin Wolf? I just have a hard time finding one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll reach here. So their 5-on-5 game the last week in the last 4 games was very good. I think you can be positive about that. I think Blake Coleman's got off to a really nice start. I think he's been rock solid. I really liked Adam Klapka's game. I like that he just creates energy every time he's out there, whether it's a hit or a fight or a scoring chance. Like, it always feels like Adam Klapka is doing something to positively affect the game. I know he's just in a 4th line role. He's only got 3 points in 10 games, but I do like the way that he's playing. I like the process for Joel Farabee. I think he's actually played well. This is probably the best hockey he's played as a Flame, and he's been very unlucky not to score a bunch of goals so far this year. Like, I like where he's trending. So I guess there's a few things. Like I said, I'm kind of reaching there, especially when you take a look around the league. One guy I feel bad for is Mackenzie Weegar, in the sense that I think he's kind of played his way off of Team Canada here in the first 10 games of the year. Like, he's got no goals, 2 assists, -10. 20 minutes in penalties. He has not looked great. Part of it, I think, is they haven't found the right partner for him, and hopefully Jake Bean might be that guy this season. I mean, he's been played with Miramanov, Hanley, Pahal, Bean.
Who hasn't he played with?
All these guys are waiver type of players. That's the caliber of defenseman that he's getting partnered up with. So I actually don't blame him for if he were to be a little bit upset with how the year's gone so far. But yeah, that's just interesting because I'm just looking at the Flames stats here, and it stood out that he's only got 2 points, and -10. It's been a tough start for Weegar.
Mm-hmm. I still want to see Ball Weegar once. Like, I just want to see it. Right? That's the one thing we haven't really seen. He's played with everybody else but Ball, it seems like. Weegar's better than what he's showing, right?
For sure.
When you're playing with a different guy every 3 games, and you've got to adjust your game because it's a different style of defenseman coming to play with you, it can take a lot from you. And unfortunately for him, I think between his play and what he's been asked to do for the Flames this year, I don't think he's anywhere close to the Team Canada conversation anymore.
No.
And that sucks because I wanted to see him there. He would have been a perfect 6-7 for that roster. Right? He provides that right shot that we don't have a lot of on Team Canada. He provides a lot of intensity in the locker room. He's a great guy, good teammate. People love him. And what he provides on ice can be very valuable if he's playing the right way. So it's unfortunate for him. So even when we find a positive, Robert, it comes back to it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. It doesn't get any easier in Toronto or Ottawa. Ottawa will work the tails off. They'll make you work. So if you're not ready for that game, they'll run you out of the building. What are your expectations?
The Flames struggle in those two barns too,
and they do. I was just about to go there. What do you expect from the Flames on the road in those two barns who have not treated them very kindly the last couple of years? Like, what do you expect this week?
If there was a time for this team to turn things around, it is over the next couple weeks here, because Toronto is not playing good right now. The sky is falling there. People are not happy with how their season started. Ottawa has not got off to a great start. They allow 1 million goals. And then all of a sudden, starting in November, you got Nashville, terrible. Philadelphia, terrible. Columbus, mediocre. Chicago, Minnesota, St. Louis, both off the terrible starts, and San Jose, who's right there at the bottom with the Flames. That's what? 6, 7, that's 9 games where you're playing against inferior opponents, or you're playing against weaker opponents. If they're going to get out of this mess here, it's going to have to be over this stretch of hockey. Even look beyond that, they got a game against Winnipeg, but then they go to Chicago and Buffalo. So 11 of your next 12 games are against opponents that are beatable. So if they're, like I said, they're going to turn this thing around, and I know the group inside that locker room, they still want to make the playoffs. They still want to be competitive. This is going to be the time for them to do it, because the schedule is actually very favorable for them.
We say that, and those teams are saying the same thing about the Flames right now.
For sure they are. Absolutely.
So it's on the table. You got to beat these teams. These are also teams the last couple of seasons that the Flames have struggled to pick up points against. We remember Chicago. We remember those St. Louis games. So it's an opportunity for the Flames here to do something about their season. The hole is big, absolutely, but the schedule does get a little bit, quote unquote, gets easier for the Flames, but they got to be ready for these games too. They got to be ready. You listed off those teams there, and Ottawa will work. They'll work their tail off. You got to beat them straight up. You got to make sure that you have a good performance there. Same thing for the Predators. They're not the Predators of last year. They're actually doing a little bit better. You got to make sure that you're prepared for the Blackhawks in the Wild, because they'll run you out of the building if you're not ready. So the opportunity is there with these teams that aren't off to great starts like the Flames are. But at the same time, if you're not ready for these games, you're going to get blown out here by a lot of teams that will work hard as you do. So you got to find that little extra to put you over the edge here. The opportunity's there. Take advantage of it, because it's a big hole to start the season, Robert. And it's hard to be positive when all you've seen is the Flames be the second best team on pretty much every single night that they play a hockey game and not being able to score goals. So it's there. Go get it now. That's the big trick here. So the Flames play Toronto Tuesday, Ottawa on Wednesday, then they're off to the States to fight a couple of games on the weekend against the Nashville Predators and the Flyers. Anything else you want to bring up on the podcast here this week, Robert? We've hit the hour mark here. It's time for us to wrap her up and get out of here.
I have a feeling that they will play well here over the next 12 games.
Yeah.
I like the way they've trended this week. I like the way Dustin Wolf's playing. Eventually, they're going to start to get bounces. Mm-hmm. Every team goes through these stretches of 7, 8, 9 games where they play like absolute crap. The Flames just did that. I think they're going to kind of come out of it a little bit. It wouldn't surprise me if over their next 12 games, they pick up like 7 or 8 wins. Mm-hmm. I could definitely see something like that happening. So, I see some positives. I see some good things trending in their direction. Once again, still don't think it'll be enough to get them out of this mess, but I think Flames fans can expect some half-decent hockey here over the next few weeks.
Yeah, that Rangers game really gave a lot of people some good vibes, and I think that was much needed for this roster heading onto that road trip. I think they have a chance now to bond over the next 4 games on the road and be away from home for a week. That isn't always the best, but you have an opportunity in front of you here, so that's really good.
Yeah, they'll have a night out in Nashville.
Yeah,
which will be probably fun. They'll probably have a night out in Toronto. Some good towns for them to get out and have some drinks and bond and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, get silly with one another outside the rink and allow yourselves to really feel for your line mates, your teammates, and go play for one another and just relax a little bit as well. I think this win will help them relax on the plane ride out there and help them relax as they try to approach these next couple of games. Robert, what's coming up from you on flamesnation.ca this week that the folks can be looking for, and where can they find you and your work?
Yeah, I'll be. I'm starting like a weekly, sort of like a week in review, a weekly notebook style article. So that should be out on Monday at some point or early Tuesday. So yeah, look for that, and then I'll be on Afterburner on Tuesday night after the Leafs game. I think I'll be on with Cammy, I believe. So that'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, lots of good stuff going on.
Follow Robert at Ring of Fire CGY across social media. I am Vintage Johnny across social media as well. And of course, the show Red Mile Rundown. We appreciate your likes, subscriptions, and telling of your friends about the podcast as we keep trying to grow this thing into something being awesome and fun. Appreciate you. Enjoy the hockey this week, and hopefully the Flames can pick up a few more points and make it a little bit more exciting for us to watch. Until next week, we'll see ya. Enjoy.